Welcome to the Sherborne Pathway Podcast. I'm Alex Boyd-Williams. I'm the Deputy Head Sixth Form at Sherborne School. And together with the careers team, we are creating this podcast to help parents, pupils and colleagues learn more about what the careers team are thinking and what we're saying with regards to the advice we're giving the boys from the third form to the sixth form in terms of the advice about post-18 pathways, whether that's university in the UK, university somewhere else in the world, apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, gap years, and so on. So we really want you to be involved and you to ask questions of us so we can feed back to you. Please do contact us at careers@sherborne.org. But I'm joined today by our Head of Careers, Zoe Fraser. So welcome, Zoe. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Alex.
And we're going to talk about the process of how in the careers department we help the boys understand and learn and prepare for whatever their post-18 applications may be. And it is pretty overwhelming. And we sort of, to try and help the boys and parents and sort of come more at ease with the potentially overwhelming process of applying for post-18 pathways, we break it down to three components. The first is explore. The second is prepare, and the third is apply. So Zoe, can you talk a little bit about how we help the boys from the third form upwards explore potential post-18 pathways?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the third form, they're obviously very new to the school. There's lots to get used to. What we do is have an event with them where we introduce our fantastic tools, piece of software called Unifrog. And they've got some just really good starting places there, which are quizzes. So there's a personality quiz, there's an interest quiz, and there's a work environments quiz. And then there's also some aptitude tests now, which are new. And what these, you can actually do all the quizzes, but we try and start them off with a few that will then point them in the direction of subjects and careers that they might like. Now, I think all of us remember I was told to be an X-ray machine worker, and I think there are a lot, people have sort of negative connotations of these tools, but I have to say Unifrog have done a fantastic job because they will get an enormous number of careers to look at, but you can add filters, and we'll show them how to add filters to say, jobs that need a degree or high salary or low salary or indoors and outdoors. And
the boys, in my episode, they're often really interested in higher salary, and that's
fine.
They want to make money and they want to do good things with that money. So that's an admirable thing. Also, I was going to say, parents have access to Unifrog. Parents have their own Sherborne Parents login, and if you're not sure about that, again, please contact careers@sherborne.org. And there's also a website on how to use Unifrog, which is on the Sherborne collaboration page. So again, if you're not sure how to access that, please get in touch and we'll help you find your way. Yeah,
there's so much information there, isn't there? And then in the fourth form, we just had I think it was a very well received enterprise morning, and I think working in groups like they did, you learn a lot about yourself as a co-worker in the future. Mm-hmm. Do you want to take a charge? Do you have lots of ideas but want to sit back? So they'll have all learned a bit from that. But we also, during some of their wellbeing lessons, the wellbeing team will deliver a lesson on they're going on a journey, a career journey, and trying to get across to them that they really need to start preparing for that journey now. So I think we use the analogy of, going on a holiday. Mm-hmm. Do you need a visa? What do you need? What do you need? You need to pack your bags. You need to prepare. And, if you're lucky enough to know what you want to do, Unifrog is a really great tool to be able to sort of literally track that backwards to say and think, right, I need to try and get some work experience in the summer of fifth form in this particular field.
And that's becoming more and more prevalent, isn't it? This reality that our young people and young people across the globe, in order to access the best universities, the best jobs, the best degree apprenticeships, they need that work experience because it's becoming more and more competitive. There are more and more 18-year-olds in the world right now, and that's increasing over the next 7 years. And so it's vital that young people have work experience and have done stuff so they can stand out.
Absolutely, and I think in sort of third, fourth, fifth form, it doesn't have to be specific to subject they want to study at university or an apprenticeship they want to do. Any job, they learn a lot. Everyone learns a lot about themselves. Doing the newspaper round, taking dogs for a walk, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is important to start young.
Yeah, and it's doing things, proving that they've created a job themselves, or they've applied for the job themselves. They've done the work. They can they have got the organisation to turn up to work on time and sustain a job over a period of time.
And they also, one of the things we work on with the fourth and fifth form is pointing out all the skills they're learning at school. Lots of them do 10 tours or the CCF, or they have roles in-house and sports. These all are building on incredibly important employability skills for the future. So it's making that connection for them, giving them confidence.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Unifog has this two tools. One is skills and one is activity. So the activities, the way we explain it to the boys is generally it's something you've attended or participated in, but perhaps on a short-term level. So it might be that they went to see a performance, or they attended a music concert. That's an activity, or they attended a talk. But they can still write about that, because that experience might have been profound and might have had a big impact on them. But they can log that on their Unifog profile, and it's there forever. It's on their school profile, and that can be useful to go back to when they're thinking about who they are and what they enjoy and what they might want to do next. They can look back at the activities they've done and think, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was significant. The skills bit would be things like 10 tours you mentioned, or Duke of Edinburgh. It's something much more substantial where they've actually developed a skill. So those things you mentioned that would be requiring skills in terms of teamwork, in terms of organisation, and these are skills that are recognised by employers, by global employers. And also, but it might be that they took part in school production, and that had a really profound effect, or they were part of the swing band. So it's not just that's not just an activity. That's something where they're developing a particular skill to quite a high level. And it's not just a British thing, I think. I think it's a human thing where lots of human beings find it difficult to write about themselves. And when they come to, do their post-18 pathway applications, they're going to have to write about themselves, or they're going to have to create a video about themselves. And it's so much easier if they've got this sort of knowledge stored in a bank, which is what Unifog's really good at. So they can look back at that and think, yes, I've already got a load of stuff. I don't have to sort of... cook this up from memory, and often the most capable, the most impressive, the most able and talented and busy young people find it so hard to write about themselves. They're so humble, and they just can't see how good they are. But if it's written up, that could be a really great sort of support in terms of them creating a really great application.
Increasing their self-awareness.
Absolutely. Them knowing what they're good at and thinking about when am I in my happy place? When am I in the zone? When am I really sort of being me?
Step. That's the kind of,
Okay, so that's all exploring, and that's all pretty groovy. How about the prepare stage, Zoe? How do we help the boys and the families along with the prepare stage?
Yeah, so fifth form, we really delve into Unifog a bit deeper about looking at in the fifth form. They're then already they're no sooner taking their GCSEs, they have to choose A levels. And yes, they should choose A levels the subjects that they love, but it's important for us to make them aware, the careers department, to make them aware of what A levels might lead or not lead to different subjects or apprenticeships, or their next steps after school. So we will show them how to do that in Unifog. It's a bit of a finicky process, but there is an absolute way where you can look at certain degree subjects at university and track back and see what are the top subjects at A level that get into those degrees. So that's important. CV writing, again, we use Unifog. It has a fantastic CV tool whereby you put in the information requested, and it formats it nicely. And I always encourage the boys to download it as a Word document, and that's something they'll have for life to edit for every different job, because you need to edit it for every different thing you go for.
And the work experiences we've been talking about, or internships, for a lot of them, they're going to need a CV, and so it's a really useful
people
tool.
still ask for CVs, and I ask them boys to send them to me if they want me to make any changes to them. But also we have a piece of software called Shortlist.me, which allows pupils to practice for online interviews. This is, more than not, I think now there'll be the first step in any process of employment, or I know they do it for the army, and so I think that's a really great tool to practice interviews. And we, in the lower sixth, we do a whole lesson on interviews, and looking at people doing very good interviews and looking at millennials doing very bad interviews and having a laugh. But I think it's important to make the point of, they're all incredibly polite boys, but a firm handshake and eye contact and being able to llisten is an important skill in an interview.
Yeah. So when we talk about preparing, you mentioned the need when they're choosing A levels to be aware of what specific universities are looking for, and that's such an interesting point, because quite a number of our boys are interested in engineering, but there are some universities, degree courses, where they have to have further maths for that particular engineering. Some don't, but some do, and so it's really important to identify that. Similarly, I think it's important, if boys, our boys are ambitious and rightly so, but if they're thinking about elite academic universities, it's about the reality of that. And if they're serious about, I want to go to LSE, or I want to go to King's or Imperial or Oxbridge, Harvard, etc., unless their academic grades are absolutely stellar, it's going to be really difficult for them to access those particular worlds. Yeah. And we do see from time to time pupils who perhaps haven't got the most stellar academic qualifications, but over the summer of the lower sixth, suddenly just grow up, I guess, or become really focused and really serious about a particular academic pathway. And I have seen pupils sort of say, I'm quite serious about Cambridge, I really want to give it a go, and they can actually peak at the time when they need to, when the interviews and applications happen, and get in. But that's rare, but it does happen. But I do want to stress that I think the boys need to be honest themselves, and if they're not absolutely loving academic work, then if they don't absolutely love academic work, they're probably not going to enjoy the experience of somewhere like LSE, Imperial, Oxford, Cambridge, because it's really an academic zone, and it's very, very intense, and it wouldn't be a happy time unless studying and being really geeky about your subject is your happy place. And that said, I don't want to shut doors or trample on any dreams. That's not what we're interested in. But there are so many amazing universities, and I think if you're someone who's not so sort of interested in being in the library and studying many hours a day, then look at other universities and other courses which could be equally impressive to future employers, but just have a different sort of tone, if you like, and a different work-life balance, and might be much more sort of sensible in terms of who you want to be, who you are, and where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we talk to the boys about that, don't we? In lower sixth, about thinking about, do they want to be in a city or in the country? Make sure how are the modules assessed? Some of them are exams, some of them are written projects, and how many, some of them have 6 hours a week and some of them have 46 hours a week. And that's really important, and that's why the building blocks of third, fourth and fifth form, of knowing who you are and what suits you, is really important. It sort of feeds into those decisions. Yes.
And one thing I've said time and time again to pupils and to parents, but I think it's important, is to identify that the best pathway for the boys, or the best pathway for your son, may be one that you have not yet heard of, or maybe one that he has not yet heard of. And knowing that can be overwhelming, but that's where we're here to help, and that's where the exploration process is important. That's where the preparing process is important. And we are less concerned with brands, the big brands like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard. These are great universities, don't get me wrong, but the best pathway for our pupils may not be one of those places. Some of our boys will go to Oxford and Cambridge and LSE and Stanford and Boston University and these elite academic pathways, and that's great and that's really admirable. But there are so many other fantastic post-18 destinations. So we're more interested in finding out the best pathway for our pupils and helping them do the preparation they need in order to get there. And so with that in mind, with the focus on degree apprenticeship, Zoe, what would you say is a good place for parents to start gaining an understanding of what this all means with regards to apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships?
Well, thanks, Alex. I think, in short, a degree apprenticeship is, I'll just explain it to you now, it's basically when you can work towards a degree, but work for a company and an employer at the same time and get paid for doing it. So the difficulty with degree apprenticeships, unlike university, is that they're not all in one place. They're advertised. Some companies only advertise them on their websites. Some companies do. There are larger sort of search engines devoted to apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships, but no degree apprenticeship or apprenticeship is the same. And I think that's something really important to understand. So what we do here is we'll introduce the lower sixth to degree apprenticeships in their wellbeing classes, and we'll also, this year we've had two people in to talk to them about it, to kind of to bring it to life, to explain to them, how does it differ than going to uni, and hearing it from the horse's mouth, which I think all the boys really resonate with. We've got an old boy coming in next week who's on the PwC programme in his first year, so that will be really interesting for all of us as well. But we really kind of try and have a think about, how much do I like academic work? Is this something that I want to do when I leave school? I want to do more of, or do I learn better by doing? And I think that resonates with quite a lot of pupils. Also, the financial incentives are very high. So the average starting salary for a degree apprenticeship in the UK is £22,000 a year. And in many cases, the government will pay for their tuition fees. So there's an enormous difference within the for finances. So I do find at the end of lower sixth that there are a lot of boys who are pretty interested in the idea of it and want to find out more. So what I say to the boys, and what I would like to say to the parents is, Unifrog is a great starting point because it's something that everyone already has access to. It has an apprenticeship search tool, which is a really good place to start. But there are also other links which I share with the boys. There's a website called Rate My Apprenticeship, which is my go-to. I think that has the best selection. But it is important, I always say to the boys, look on I've got sort of top 3 websites to search for them, but also make a list of 10 companies you'd like to work for. And make sure you follow them on social media, and make sure you sign up to their early careers programs on their website so that you know when the jobs are coming up. And that's another big difference in the explore side of degree apprenticeships, is when you're searching for university courses, all the information is there about the course, all year round. There is always there's always a history degree at Durham, and the content will change very little. But what I find frustrating about degree apprenticeships is that often when you search, you only see the jobs that are live. So you could be missing out on a lot. You're only seeing what's available right then. So I found a few websites that I share with the boys as well, where you can search by industry, and they will tell you these are the big ones. Yeah. But also on Rate My Apprenticeship, they have kind of the top 100 voted apprenticeship employers. And things like that. And the big companies are in the lead in this area because they have the money to do so. So I think the larger companies are a good place to start, because it's an enormous leap for a start to go to work every day after school and just be studying one day a week. But I do think with the big companies, you might be in a cohort of 20 or 30, so you'll have some sort of mates, people who are going
part of a team.
You're part of a team. You're going
similar
through
aged people. Yeah,
you're going through the same thing, and industries. varies wildly as well. So professional services, accountancy, law firms, they're all, they all have great programs that have been running for a while.
Yeah.
Whereas I was looking for a degree apprenticeship for a young farmer, and we can't find a thing yet, and media's harder, fashion.
So in that case, there'd be apprenticeships, but not necessarily a degree apprenticeship where you get the degree at the end of it, and so on. One thing it'd be good to focus on with what might be the positives of the degree apprenticeship, and where maybe are the negatives. In my sense, that you've talked about on the finance. So the positive degree apprenticeship, as you say, you're not going to be paying your tuition fees, which in the UK at the moment are, well, in England they're 9.2 thousand. In Wales they're 9,000 per year for university tuition fees. In Scotland they're the same as England, 9.2, but if you are registered as a Scottish resident, you pay 1.6k per year. So, and talking to Sherborne parents and other friends who have children at university, my understanding is you might as well double that with regards to living costs. So you could be talking about £20,000 a year over 3 years, maybe 4 or more if they're studying medicine or other courses or become a postgrad. So it's expensive business, and so for some families and some young people that could be hugely desirable. That some of boys might want some of our boys might say, I want to be independent and I want to take care of my finances from now on, which is admirable. So that's one huge positive.
That's a positive. I think a negative is that most of the boys who coming to the end of their upper sixth just aren't mature enough, and that's normal. And that's and it was.
I certainly wasn't.
Yeah, and I wasn't either. And I thought it was a really interesting statistic, which I can't remember the exact stat, but on Newcastle that actually show that. It's quite a small percentage of degree apprenticeships and that are taken up each year are by 18-year-olds. A lot of degree apprenticeships are taken up by people in their early 20s, and
they've had gap years.
They've had a gap year, or they've started uni and they've decided to go, do something else, or they've done a degree and then they're going to. It's easier to get into a degree apprenticeship program at a company than it is a postgraduate.
Right.
As a graduate. So I think our pupils are absolutely in line with the country. It's some pupils have got the maturity and they know where they want to go, and I think that's another thing to really consider with degree apprenticeships is, for the most part, as I say, because they differ so wildly, but for the most part you have to know you want to go into tax, or you have to want to know you want to go into you could become a surveyor, for instance. Yeah. But you need to know that, and lots of pupils don't.
It seems to me it's kind of like drama school. That is your vocation. That's and you're not going to get into drama school unless you can convince the panel who are auditioning that you are absolutely committed to this particular career path. And just to segue to recommend another excellent Sherborne-based podcast, Talking to the Top, which is recently on Spotify. But Hugh Bonville was saying on that you mentioned gap years, but it's really hard to get into drama schools at the age of 18 because they want people with life experience. And I think it might be the same for employers. You're just going to bring more to the team, aren't you? Yeah. And also, to have great deal of sympathy with the boys. I don't think for one second it's a criticism to say they're not mature enough, because looking at the boys now, they're working really hard.
Yeah,
and they're doing their A-levels and their BTECs. They're tired. So they're tired. Yeah. So the idea of suddenly going into the world of work, where you're up Monday morning, which could be 6 o'clock, and you have to go to work. And it's important to stress with degree apprenticeships that there will be 2 or 3 days a week when you are in uni, but you're in a different group, aren't you? You're in a different group.
1 day a week, but also some question I get quite a lot is about gap years and degree apprenticeships, and you can't take a gap year. You have to go. Companies don't wait a year.
Yeah. So
if they've employed you,
do your gap year,
then apply,
and then apply. And also with a gap year, I know sometimes the boys worry about what to do because again, there's infinite possibilities, but that requires thought and planning, and that's something the careers department can help with. We can help the boys. We can help families with who aren't sure about what to do, because there are so many amazing opportunities with regards to gap years, but also traveling and thinking about travelling. I want to recommend a really excellent programme which I've saw on BBC recently, which is called Race Across the World. And there are 3 series, but I think it's really good in terms of looking at the first series is based. It's a race from London to Singapore, so you just see these competitors who happen to travel across Europe and just the reality of that and getting the visuals of these countries. And then the second series is in South America, and the third series is in Canada, and they have travel across one side of Canada to another. But it's a great program, and I think for boys thinking about gap years and travel, just really useful insight to see where they could go and what might excite them. Yeah.
And just one more point on apprenticeships.
We're getting used to this radio thing. I love you putting your hand up. It's great. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think it's really important for pupils and parents to understand, if you're looking at the degree apprenticeship or apprenticeship route, that it's our job as the careers department to enable the pupils, the boys, to search and apply, but they have to take ownership of, okay, I've set up alerts, on the websites we've shown for I want a degree apprenticeship in London in property, and then they'll get they'll get an email alert every time a new job comes up. So once they've got that alert, it's their job then to come to me and say, there's a job I want, an apprenticeship I want to go for, and then I can support them through that process. But I do think it's just important for pupils and parents to understand they need to own that journey, and we're there every step of the way.
But as you say, it's support, not hand-holding, isn't it? Because it's a pretty grown-up thing to do. It
is a grown-up thing, and with 120 pupils per year, I mean, usually I start with about 15 in a year group, and I do set up in the start of the upper sixth, I'll set up 1-to-1 bi-weekly meetings with anyone, who we will have an apprenticeship refresher session, and anyone who seriously is considering it. And I say to them then, only you know exactly what you're interested in looking for, and here's how you do it. Set up your alerts, listen to these people, find out as much as you can, and then I'm here to support you with the initial online applications, the aptitude tests, the online interviews, and then the in-person assessments. But yeah, they need to own knowing what's being advertised and when.
Yeah. And what I can see is they need to be pretty hungry for it in order to have a successful application. But we do have boys, as you said, Zoe, we do have boys. We had 2 last year who are successful in applicants for degree apprenticeships. One at Newcastle, one at Manchester. So it does happen.
It does happen. That's with PwC, because I don't know what kind of deal they made with UCAS, but they're the only degree apprenticeship in the UK that you can apply on the UCAS as one of your choices.
So that is a more straightforward process.
It's just an easier process. I hope, and in the future, and I believe it will in the next few years, degree apprenticeships will be part of your 5 choices, and it'll all go through the UCAS. That's their vision. That's UCAS. Which will be much easier for everyone. Yeah.
As we've been talking, I'm thinking about parents thinking about their own children, and think as a parent, you know your child, you know your son, and so you'll have a good idea as to whether is he going to be ready to go to work next year. Is that where he's at, or and sometimes our children can surprise us, where they think, you suddenly think, oh my goodness, he's becoming so much more organised than ever before. And they just, things happen over the summer holidays as they grow up, and suddenly they emerge a very different, sort of very much more focused human being. So there are huge shifts, of course, through the journey of adolescence. But sometimes you just know that, a degree apprenticeship maybe isn't for my son, and that's more than okay, because I suppose want to just flag up the joy of being an undergraduate and of going to university, and like the boys here, I went to boarding school, and I'm really grateful for that experience, but it is restricted in many ways, and so I loved at university just the absolute bliss of going to a coffee shop and watching the world go by and meeting friends and being able to do things I couldn't do whilst I was at boarding school. And I think the reality of degree apprenticeship is you're just going to have less freedom in many ways.
That's true.
In the Monday to Friday, certainly. Yeah. And also, you can't go out on Tuesday night to the Union, well, you could, but you're going to be in work the next day, so it's a tougher regime.
Yeah,
and some of the boys will
absolutely.
embrace that,
Yeah.
but I'd say for the most part, many won't, because they just need a bit more time to get ready to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks. So anything to add before we close?
No, not for me.
Okay. Well, I hope that's helpful to the parents. But, if you're listening to this and you've got more questions, please just email careers@sherborne.org, and we'd be delighted to get back to you and have a conversation about how we can help you, how we can help your son, and how we can help you as a family. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.